Good morning. I'm Krista Campbell. Thank you for joining us for making real-time spatial information available to decision makers. Today, we're going to be discussing how Web GIS has enabled Padre Dam Municipal Water District to make data available across their organization, from the office to the field and back. So we have several friends from Padre Dam Municipal Water joining us today. We have Colleen Larsen, GIS Coordinator, Yelena Granovskaya, GIS Specialist, and we also have Greg Gibbs, Construction and Maintenance Supervisor, as well as Michael Anderson, Construction Equipment Operator Lead. Greg and Michael are going to join us for the Q&A, so be sure you have some questions so that they can participate. I hope you enjoy the webinar, and we're going to get started. Today's topics, we're going to start with what is Web GIS. We're going to talk about the benefits of Web GIS. I'm going to go through some of our applications, and then Padre Dam is going to present. Let's start with what is Web GIS. As you see on the slide, it's a pattern for implementing a modern GIS. Esri defines Web GIS as a type of distributed information system that uses web services to deliver data and capabilities. So it's powered by web services, and it's a modern GIS. Many of you are familiar with our ArcGIS platform, but if you didn't know, the platform is designed specifically as a Web GIS. It can be implemented in the cloud using ArcGIS Online. It can be implemented on premises using ArcGIS Enterprise, or it can be implemented using a hybrid approach, which leverages both online and enterprise. Web GIS is a key component of our platform because it enables you to make and share maps and applications easily. Padre Dam is using a hybrid approach, so they've got online and enterprise, and they're going to discuss that a little bit in their presentation later. The benefits of Web GIS. Well, it makes sharing your data easy. Web GIS takes your authoritative data that's on your desktop or server, and it makes it easy to share across your organization. It doesn't just open up the data to anyone. You get to determine who has access to what data. So you control that, but it does make it really easy to get it out of that traditional desktop environment and sharing it across your organization. It also lets you take advantage of these modern applications that I mentioned. We're going to discuss these next. What I want to highlight is that these modern applications provide almost unlimited options to engage staff and to engage the public. By implementing mobile applications, you can provide real-time updates on the work being performed in the field as well as in the office. So what I mean by that is several of our mobile applications allow you to take advantage of that Web GIS, and when updates and edits are done in the field, they're shared in almost real time so that managers, supervisors, administrators, whoever needs to see that information has the same picture at the same time. In my opinion, Web GIS amplifies the value of GIS and, in addition, the role of GIS professionals. It unlocks that data that us GIS professionals used to always have on our desktop or on our server that was sometimes difficult to share, and it makes it available to people that otherwise wouldn't have access to it. So this is really exciting to me. I love Web GIS. I think it's a great advancement in our technology. For those of you that have been in the GIS field for a long time, sharing and using our GIS data across our organization wasn't always easy. So let's talk about those applications that I mentioned. Esri has a website called Apps for Everyone. And on this website, as you can see on the slide, it's broken into 4 categories so that you can easily find applications that might be useful to you. So the applications include field apps, office apps, apps for the community, and app builders, so that if our pre-configured applications aren't meeting your specific needs, you can use an app builder to quickly configure something that works for you. Let's start with apps for the field. Apps for the field include applications that you've probably heard of: Workforce for ArcGIS, Navigator, Survey 123. ArcGIS is used with these applications to help share that information. As you can see, I've highlighted Collector for ArcGIS. This is our most popular mobile application. It's a map-centric application that uses web services and a web map to make it easy for field crews to access data, edit data, and even validate data. So what I mean by validate data is if you have existing data in your GIS Field crews can edit that or redline that data if they find something that's not in the field that collaborates with what you have in your GIS. So it's a great way to also validate existing information. When you're using Collector for ArcGIS, the map is the primary view that the field crew will see on their mobile device. You can see the location of your assets in the map, and you can also access the attribute information that you need to see. There's a form that's also used to help collect or edit the data. The form can include drop-down menus to ensure data consistency, and you can also include photos and videos. So those will be attached to the asset, and they can be viewed by others in your organization. You can also view historical data in Collector for ArcGIS. For example, if you're performing an inspection, you can see previous inspections that were formed and any photos that were included with those previous inspections. It's a pretty cool tool. Padre Dam is going to discuss some of the ways that they've used Collector in their presentation. Apps for the office. These apps include additional applications that I think you're going to recognize: ArcMap, ArcGIS Pro. The other apps that are part of our Apps for Office suite is Insights for ArcGIS, Community Analyst, and Maps for Office. I've highlighted Operations Dashboard because this app is very popular. It's used in conjunction with our field applications. It provides a quick way to view the status of work being done, and you can configure the dashboard to show what you need to see. For example, if I have several field crews out doing hydrant flushing, I could set up a dashboard that tells me how many hydrants need to be flushed, how many are completed already, and then I can also visualize that in a map showing the status and the location, maybe based on color. So the completed flushing are represented in green, and the flushings that still need to be done might be represented in red. It's a quick way to understand what's happening in the field and what the status is. As you might have guessed already, Padre Dam is going to present one of their dashboards so that you can see this application in action. Apps for the community includes many cool options for crowdsourcing, but my favorite is the story maps. Story maps make it easy to tell your story, whatever it is. I've seen story maps that explain capital improvement projects, that share water quality information, that educate about conservation. I like story maps. We use them here at Esri. The water team uses them a lot. I also use them in my personal life. I use them a lot for field trips that my children go on. They're just a fun way to share your information and for your customers, your friends, your family, whoever it is, to quickly understand and share an experience with you. So Padre Dam actually presented at our water meeting at the user conference in 2015 about story map templates and how they're using them. And I'm pretty sure they're going to show you one of their story maps so you can get an idea. The last section I want to talk about are the app builders. App Studio for ArcGIS and Web App Builder for ArcGIS. App Studio is a tool that helps you create mobile applications and then publish them to the app stores. It's easy to use. It requires no developer skills. Web App Builder also helps you create apps. It uses templates to guide you through selecting the style that you want, the data that you want to show, functionality that you want to have in your application. And then it also allows you to test so that you can see what your application looks like on different types of mobile devices. So this is a great thing to use to create those custom, simple apps that you can share with your organization. If you haven't taken a look at it, you may check it out. It's pretty easy to walk through, especially the Web App Builder, because it has those templates. It's almost like a wizard. Okay, before we get to Padre Dam, I'd like to do a polling question. Has your organization implemented Web GIS? Yes, no, you plan to within 6 months, or you plan to within 12 months. We're going to give you just a second so everyone has a chance to answer. Has your organization implemented Web GIS? Yes, no, you plan to within 6 months, or you plan to within 12 months. It looks like a high percent of you have implemented Web GIS, about 80%. And then we have about 10% of you that are saying that you plan to within the next 6 months. Thank you for taking the time for the poll. We're going to go ahead and pass it to Padre Dam and let them get started. Colleen?
Hi, I'm Colleen Larsen, the GIS coordinator.
And I'm Elena, I'm the GIS specialist here.
So first we are going to give you kind of a brief overview of our district. We are in San Diego, California, and our service area is kind of what they refer to East County. Specifically, our suburbs, Santee is our western service area. We actually do serve water, sewer, and recycled here. We do serve sewer and water in parts of El Cajon and some areas of sewer for Lakeside. And then we switch over to our eastern service area, which is just water in Flint Springs, Harbison Canyon, Blossom Valley, Alpine, Dehesa, and Crest. And Yelena is going to talk about a little history and statistics and how we kind of got started with our enterprise GIS.
Yes, so a little bit about Padre Dam's history. We were formed in 1955 by the San Diego County Board of Supervisors to import water from the Colorado River. Originally, our name was Rio San Diego Municipal Water District. In 1976, we were renamed to Padre Dam as we merged with the Santee County Water District. In 1980s, we acquired two smaller utilities, Alpine Highlands and Crest. And a little fun fact about a question that we get a lot is that the district is named after an old mission dam in San Diego's Mission Trails Regional Park. It was built by Spanish missionaries circa 1807 and is still a historic site that you can visit today. So some statistics to give you an idea about the size of our jurisdiction. Padre Dam, as Colleen mentioned, provides water, wastewater, recycled, and recreational services. We provide services to about 100,000 residents that covers 73 square miles. We have a little over 24,000 total service connections. About half of that is water and sewer. And then we have water only accounts, sewer only accounts, and about 235 recycled water accounts. That makes up about 400 miles of pipe for potable, 167 miles for sewer, and 26 miles of recycled pipe. We're very proud of our Santee Lakes Recreational Preserve. It sits on 190 acres, covers 7 lakes. The lakes are supplied by recycled water. We have 300 campground sites, 10 cabins. It's a popular destination. To give you an idea about our district size, we're about 140 staff, and our GIS team is a coordinator and a GIS specialist. So our enterprise efforts at Padre Dam started about 3 years ago as we acquired the small utility enterprise license agreement. Because we have between 10,000 and 50,000 accounts, that was the right size for us. This allowed us unlimited licensing for Esri software. We installed ArcGIS for desktop across operations, engineering, customer service, and public information PCs. This covered most of the staff at Padre Dam who now had access to information at their desktop. We created these template MXDs. And we trained our staff to pan, to zoom, to use address locator tool, search by XY coordinates, run simple queries, use ID tool, and most importantly, we trained them to print and export their own maps and plats. So this is what the application looks like. This is the desktop application and how we exposed GIS to our workforce initially. We put layers of GIS data in the table of contents. We gave them Python-based tools for most common day-to-day tasks. And we trained our staff to locate and work with the attribute information using this ID tool. So our next step was to utilize ArcGIS Online to create tools that can be used in the field and the office. And I'll hand it over to Colleen to tell you a little more about that.
Okay, so before we do our live demo, we wanted to kind of go over some of the apps we did start on ArcGIS Online. One was the construction meter application, which that really helps our meter readers out in the field as well as other field personnel to kind of keep track, make sure if they see one of our construction meters out there that it's being utilized correctly. This assists our development services and customer service to also know where the construction meters are at, and we trained one of the AMI staff actually how to publish that service when she updates the information she gets out of their AMI system. We also created a development services project story map using the accordion layout, where this was an internal so that our development services manager could show the rest of the managers the status of their projects. And then we also, this one is actually a really important one, the tile infrastructure we called it, because they're cached layers, and I made it look kind of like their 200 scale map books, and we pretty much add this one to most of our mapping, so as they zoom in they can see more of the infrastructure. And also uploaded some as-built and change orders, so when they're out in the field they can click on it and view that as well. And they have found this very nice. Most of our crews now have an ArcGIS Online user account, so they prefer using their phones, smartphones, or tablets out in the field than those 200 scale map books, which most of you, if you're water customers, are familiar with this look. And we do still keep these map books in the duty trucks and such, just for emergency backup plan. And what we've really utilized this for is currently we do not have an enterprise asset management system or CMMS, and our field crews really wanted to start using their mobile devices out in the field to collect their information. So just some examples, and the ones that we're going to demo here later is the valve turning maintenance, which includes fire hydrant maintenance well. We're going to show the operations dashboard for that. The Web App Builder dashboard that the utilities crews can use for valve replacement information. And a new one Yelena's going to show on the fire hydrant painting project that we have, that we're going to share that map with the consultant. And we do have the sewer flushing and condition assessment CCTV data that we are currently actually in the process of getting a CMMS for that. And lastly, what we're has really helped save a lot of time is the Dig Alert app using the 811 positive response web service TCP connection. So our inspectors out in the field can see spatially where the ticket is, and now it goes back to Dig Alert and they let the caller know the status. So that's really saved a lot of time. And so by creating this, like I said, they can access this out in the field with their tablets, smartphones, and laptops. And we're also going to show one of our public-facing web maps that all of those are linked somehow on our, our Padre Dam website as well. So we've taken some screen captures so you can kind of see what it looks like on the Collector app. So I'm going to quickly go through that before we start our live demo. And so the valve exercising, for example, like Krista said, so when they turn it, it turns green. So they select their valve, they can put in the number of turns, and they can also see the history of the valve turning on that valve, as well as the hydrant. They select it, they can change the hydrant configuration, for example. So we've got domains for that, as well as their hydrant maintenance information. And here's an example of a domain for hydrant caps. And with that, Yelena is going to show our soon fire hydrant painting app.
Thank you, Colleen. So this is our most recently developed collector application. We're about to go live with it. The primary purpose of this application is to provide a tool for the supervisor of the fire hydrant painting program at Padre Dam to monitor and quality assure, and to give the contractor that we're hiring to do the work, an ability to access data in the field, do the edits, record their work, and the supervisor at Padre Dam can see the progress in real time at the office and hold the contractor accountable for any work. So this is what the contractor who's doing the hydrant painting out in the field will see. They'll open their collector app. This is the web app that's consumed through the collector. All the fire hydrant points are on the map. The ones in red haven't been done yet. The ones in green will represent the work that has been completed. So as they're out performing the work, they can use the location services, zoom to their location, see the fire hydrant they're performing work at, click on it, view information about it. They can see the configuration, identifying information. They will go into the edit mode, but once the work has been completed, they can say that, yes, it's been painted. We've only exposed the necessary fields for them to be able to edit in the field. They can take photos. This was a huge draw for this application, is the ability to take, to enable attachments and to take photos. This way, the contractor can take a before and an after photo as evidence that the work was performed, and the supervisor back in the field can monitor progress of the work that way. So once they've done the work, they say, yes, it's been painted. There's a paint date stamp with a date and a time. And they can also edit any comments for special circumstances that might have come up. They can do their attachments. And once they submit the edits, the supervisors can see it back at the field, back at the office. Once the work's been done, the fire hydrant turns green. You can see very easily, you can see spatially where the work has been done and how the progress is going. Another benefit of this collector app is the ability to download maps and to be able to work offline. So some of our service area, you don't get cellular reception, you can't open web maps. So this way the contractor can download a certain work area, go in, do the work, perform the edits. When they're back into an area with stronger signal or stronger Wi-Fi, they can go back on the device. Once the map is downloaded and the edits are performed, there's a really neat feature that you can see in red. You can see the number of features that have been edited, which is pretty neat. So like I said, once they're back in an area with a stronger signal, they can download and sync the information back, and at that point we'll see it back at the office right away. So we'll now demo some of the applications that we've mentioned, and I'll pass it back off to Colleen.
All right, so first we're going to start off showing our ArcGIS Online organizational account. So here is our home page, and you can configure this how you like. And we have a gallery that's for our organizational users. And you can even attach, you know, a PDF, for example, if they want to print that. But what I want to focus on is your content view. So as you can see, we have quite a few projects in our ArcGIS Online environment, and it's good to create folders so you can be organized with that. So I am going to show you our valve maintenance, and one thing I wanted to note too is that now this one is a hosted service, and so of course I give them, you know, the web, it's published with editing rights. The web map gives them editing capability, but for the other applications where I just want it just to be information only, you can create a view of your data, and then that way you don't have to worry about anyone accidentally, you know, editing or something. So I like that feature. And so we also, for our Dig Alert app, this one is services created off our Arc server, and the same thing is I created a read-only service reading the same database, so we can share that information and not worry about anybody editing. So that's mostly it for our ArcGIS Online organizational account view. So first we're going to start with, I'm going to show you the valve and hydrant info. This is what our utility crews can see out at their desktops in the office, which is really nice. We made these big kind of obnoxious flags so our utility crew supervisors can plan for their valve replacement information. So when they click on it, they can see the history, and then the most recent one, for example, was Dave Roberts, and usually, you know, they'll put 0 because they couldn't turn it, and they'll put they'll say it's inoperable, and they might put in a comment as to why. So this is very handy for our supervisors that have to fit this in their daily planning. And then just to show you an example of zooming in. So now you can see those cache layers starting to show up. And as you zoom in more, you can see the actual valve information and hydrant information. And so they have found this to be very helpful. Next, I'm going to show you the, for the valve crews, the operations dashboard. This has been this helps also from the supervisors as well as the operators, because they have for reporting especially. So this is where they're at currently for the month of March. And so they have a widget that you can expose to show per operator, a widget showing, so their goal is to exercise 3,000 a year. And so this is where we're currently at in 2018, a widget that shows, you know, how many they did per year. You can put like the total number of valves and hydrants maintained. So they use this a lot out in the field, and kind of helps them track with their widgets, if you will. And then also the Dig Alert app. This is the one that is really helpful for our inspection group because the inspectors also are the locators. So this is live. So this is our current status at the moment. So we use the info summary widget, which shows the new tickets in. And so when you click on it, what it does is it parses out the information. You can view, creates a PDF of this so they can see that. And the inspector will change the status as needed. And so like these two came in and they're standby required. And we developed this using our EEAP program, and which has been very beneficial for the district. So when the inspectors change that status to the Padre Dam called in tickets, so we created a web app builder app for them to see in the office. So Greg, for example, who's on the call today, he can see his tickets that he's called in, and his biggest concern is when they've expired. So it just helps him keep track of it spatially, although they do have it, you know, in their Outlook and on the Dig Alert app as well. But this just helps them organize it a little, and they've found this to be very helpful as well. And now Yelena is going to show the fire hydrant web map.
Thank you. This is the web app that the collector app consumes for our fire hydrant painting program. The web map is primarily a tool for the supervisor of the program. So now they're using ArcGIS Online at their desk. They can see progress spatially. They can monitor quality of the work. They can see which neighborhoods the work is being done at. They can kind of do their quality assurance task with by viewing comments and viewing photos that the contractor takes to prove evidence of their work. They can also view the timestamp to see when the work was being done, and this all happens in real time. The supervisor takes minutes out of his day This saves some hours of driving around to do the same quality assurance tasks. We're very excited about this one. So we also, so we kind of went over our internal ArcGIS Online applications, but we also use ArcGIS Online for our publicly facing applications. One of the earliest apps that we've implemented was a Padre Dam division locator. We used the parcel template, and this is a application that lives on our public website, so our customers can go to the website, they can search by their address, and they can see who their board of director is and which division area they belong to. We also utilized our story maps for our development services group. So we used the map tour and the map journal templates. The purpose of the story map was to display current project locations and summary of these projects, as well as photos. And this way our public can visit the website and have this really great visual of where the work and construction projects are taking place throughout our district. We also use story map for our water efficient landscapes project, and I'll demo that in just a minute. For that one, we used the map tour template. The primary purpose of that story map was to highlight water efficient landscaping throughout our district. It was a project in collaboration with our communications department, and it was done at the request of our board of directors. And lastly, we used ArcGIS Online to help with our portable construction meter requests. So we have a portable construction meter request on our website, and we embedded a web map there where now the customers who need construction meters for dust control, landscaping, if they're building a home, they can fill out the form. They can use the web map to zoom into their project area, find the nearest fire hydrant, get that asset ID, use that in the form. Once the form is submitted, that kicks off the process internally, that goes through engineering, customer service, and then billing. And everything is the process is tied to the fire hydrant asset ID. This is the water efficient landscape story map that proved to be a big success at Padre Dam. So as you can see, these are the customers that participated in the program. We worked with communications department on this project. The communications reached out to the customers, got their permission to have photos of their front yards taken and put on our website. We then went out, collected the photos. We put photos into video collages, and then those video files were consumed with the story within the story map. And so this really proved to be a great tool for the public to encourage water conservation. As you can probably guess, we built the story map during the severe drought conditions of last year. And now I'll pass it off to Colleen, and she'll tell you more about our future endeavors.
Okay, so lastly, what our plan is to complete our ArcGIS Enterprise. We're going to install Portal and the data store, and we want to finish the CIP story map and make that available publicly. And we're really excited to create more dashboards that, especially with the Web App Builder, you can group and customize what data is seen, and that's really been proven to be helpful for other people in other departments. And we recently did an insights demo for our managers, and they got really excited about that and have already come up with a lot of ideas of how they can utilize it. For example, using for determining critical assets, leak analysis, pipe and valve prioritization, sewer hotspots, and consumption analysis. So we have a lot of work this year, and that's the end of our presentation.
Thanks, Colleen and Yelena. So this is Krista. We're going to get started on our Q&A. I'd like to thank Colleen and Yelena for their presentation, and then also remind you that we have Greg and Michael joining us for our Q&A. So I have gotten several questions coming in during your presentation, you guys. Let's just get started. There were several questions pertaining to your comment about working with a contractor. So I'm going to give you a couple of the questions, and then whoever feels like they want to comment, please do. So first of all, they wanted to know if you purchased an ArcGIS Online account for your contractor, if you let them use one of the ones you had purchased, or if they were required to have their own ArcGIS Online account. And in addition to that, when they were performing the work for you in the field, did you provide them with a mobile device, or did they have their own?
Okay, this is Colleen. I'll answer that. Well, this is actually, we haven't actually started it. We just got it all ready to go. And the plan is that one of the requirements, they need to have their own ArcGIS Online account. We actually, we didn't show this, but we are doing that for our Alpine fire hydrant area, the Alpine Fire Protection. They are maintaining our fire hydrants, and they have their own ArcGIS Online account, so we just share the web map, and then they go from there. And that was kind of the thought with the contractor is, yes, they will be providing their own mobile device, and we're just going to share the map and give them rights that way. So if that answers the question.
Thanks, Colleen. I might have to follow up with you to see how that works after you've got everything started. I know that Northeastern Ohio Regional has been working with contractors in a similar way. They're using ArcGIS Online to collaborate more quickly in real time and to get everyone on the same page. So I'd love to hear your feedback once that goes live. Okay, let's go on to another question. Some of our attendees wanted to know about your attribute data, specifically when you were discussing your valves and your hydrants. Are the attribute information part of the actual assets, or are they stored in related tables?
So the point feature class, we do have on our SDE, we are utilizing Esri's local government information model. So yes, the attributes are tied to the points, but the maintenance part of it, we do have related tables just for the maintenance information. So so on that operations dashboard, you actually have to do the external, the external database in order to create the filters and use the widgets to see that related data.
Thanks, Colleen. So we have another question that's concerning your plan to work with your contractors, and this is more about controlling your data and making sure there's quality control and the edits that are being done by the contractor. How are you going to be handling that?
Well, it is a hosted service, so in that sense, it's just copied. It's just, copy. So they're not destroying any of our system of records if that's what they're asking. And we plan to, download that information as they move along through, because actually Yelena did that project, using GIS tools to take all of our hydrants. The request was create 10 painting zones, and that's why, so how this is going to be handled with the contractor is per zone. So this is actually a really long-term process. So this is the very first zone that we're going to start, and then you don't know, we could have another contractor for the next zone. That's handled through our operations manager, and he's taken care of all the necessary contract information and legal information, for example, for all that stuff. And that's Kyle Swanson handles that.
Thanks, Colleen. So I know we mentioned that in Collector for ArcGIS, you can see the history of inspections or work that had been done. There is a question that's asking specifically about the valve turns and how that historical information is there and tracked. Can you comment on that?
I can. We actually, because we had data going all the way back to 2002, initially with WAC's valve card, and that's how we've always put that information in. And I had actually created some Microsoft Access databases, because the back end is you can link the back end via that way, and actually created some better user interfaces for entering that data. And so how that all developed too is they had sheets out in the field that they would just fill in the information, and then those stacks of hard copy sheets would pile up, and they didn't get updated until maybe a rainy day, which of course we know in San Diego doesn't happen very often, and or someone maybe got on light duty, and so generally that information was always a little behind. And so once we, 3 years ago, once we, started the more enterprise approach, I did take that data and I dumped it into our LGIM, and now that is our system of record for our maintenance valve turning information.
Thanks. So we have a lot of questions about the dig alert stuff that you were showing. I'm just going to start with them and go through them one at a time. I'm not going to try to summarize these because some of them are pretty specific. So for the dig alert web app that you were showing, the attendees are interested to know how much custom coding or development was required to get that launched.
We did use our EEAP. Srinivas is our technical advisor, and he has Brooke Reams is the developer for that, and it's just it's Python scripts pretty much. And they had worked on this project, I don't know, a couple years ago, and she has since actually made a nice using App Studio, and they kind of modeled it after what we do, and they've gotten really good feedback because our processes, we actually took the dig alert put it on steroids because they found it to be much more our workflow very handy. So it's actually not that hard to set up. It's Python scripts. You do have to on your server, set up some automated tasks, scheduled tasks. So we give emails that like our development services manager has to report out monthly how many marks our inspectors do. So we tally that up, and that comes out in the email. And also I get a daily email announcement notification saying that based off of the end of the day dig alert audit, the email that comes through that checks the database, and if a point was not created, I will see that. And then Brooke developed a couple of tools that I run either an ArcMap or ArcCatalog to then then at that point it's somewhat manual, but I can save out those emails and then run the script that then creates the point and does the PDF. And we also, we didn't show it, but we have ArcGIS Pro, where we are utilizing that for some specific reporting. So the idea is our development services manager wants to kind of go paperless if possible. So now we're keeping all this information in the database, but if it comes up that they need to, show proof, he can use ArcGIS Pro to then export out a report, which includes the actual email, any photos that the inspectors have taken, and their comments that they put in the collector app for that specifically. So hopefully that answers most of those questions.
I think so. It sounds pretty cool. Just for those audience members that don't know what EEAP is, can you talk about that for a minute?
Sure. I always get the acronyms mixed up, but it's like the Enterprise as Advantage program. It's just an annual thing that you can sign. You don't have to do it every year, but if you want some additional support and help, you get credits. You get credits that you can use pretty much towards whatever you want. So if you want to use it for taking some training, you can use it towards that. Technical support, like we're going to use our credits this year for our portal implementation, just to make sure everything is the way it needs to be. And of course our IS department will spin up our servers, but it just helps to have kind of an overview, and then they help you with, you have an annual planning meeting where you meet with all your managers, so you kind of get an idea of where, like for us as a district, we would like to go, the direction. And then when you have questions, you get pretty quick response. I mean, you still utilize, I still use Esri's technical support for small things, but you get the support of a technical advisor and your whoever's your manager. In our case, it's Suzanne Tanami, but so that's how we utilize it. And again, it's just an annual, it's on top of your normal license agreement, additional. So just I would look at it like, make sure you plan what you want to do so that you can utilize and take advantage of the credits and some of the discounts you get for like conferences or whatever. So does that explain that well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Very good, thank you. And I love Susie. She's easy to work with for sure. Okay, let's continue with the Dig Alert questions. Can your Dig Alert users in the field clear tickets from within Collector, or do they go back to a Dig Alert app that's separate?
Well, just the inspectors do the editing. So we have that connection with Dig Alert. So the caller, whoever calls it in, once our inspector puts in, because there's specific codes and it's all on their website of how and what to do for that. And so when they pick their, whatever the case may be, or maybe it's just out of, there's no conflicting, infrastructure there, or whatever the status is, then that goes back to Dig Alert, and then that's a scheduled task we do every hour. So then Dig Alert actually gives that message, sends it to the caller, and then of course for the Padre Dam, our utility crews that call them in, then they handle their own, but they don't do the editing. It's just their inspectors.
Thanks, Colleen. So you've got a couple compliments in here about your apps looking great. I want to let you know about that. And then there is a question about what size of a staff do you have? So I know you mentioned earlier that it's yourself and Yelena for GIS staff. Were there any other staff members at Padre Dam that assisted you guys, or it's just you two with the help of your EEAP?
Well, it's been just the two of us, but we've had a part-time person this past year that just started last week, full-time. So we're actually very excited because we do have some backlog of information that we have, we need to update our maps. And he has helped us out greatly, especially we have several new development areas in our Santee area, and he's got that all caught up. But it's, as far as GIS goes, it's just us, and then like we utilize Esri staff sometimes. And we try to train as many field users, and so Mike Anderson, who's on the phone, he has done some mapping, and if there's any questions for our field crews, I would like them to be able to answer a few if we can have that happen.
Sure, I kind of thought they might get in on the Dig Alert questions, but there were quite a few of those.
We could ask them if they want to pipe in, because they use the app that shows their specific tickets. So I don't know if Michael and Greg want to pipe in on that.
I know you mentioned that they found it very useful to see it on a map and use that spatial location. Mike and Greg, do you want to give us a little input on why that's more useful than the way you had been seeing it before?
Yeah, sure. So we have multiple people that call in for Dig Alerts out of our own work group. And so there's like six or seven people that'll call in for a Dig Alert ticket. And sometimes those get kind of hard to keep track of, especially when they expire and stuff like that. So this way you can be in the office and give that a review and keep those tickets current if somebody's on vacation or out of the office for some reason, or you need to revisit a work area. You can just look at one map and see all your open tickets. After the inspectors clear them, it comes to us, and it seems to be a really, really handy tool.
Thank you. Great. I'm glad it's handy for you. It's exciting to see all these applications and dashboards being used. To go back to your plan to use contractors for some of this work, a lot of questions about this and the Dig Alert stuff. Colleen or Yelena, for the contractors, I know we had talked about them using ArcGIS Online, and they'll have their own subscription. In order for them to do the work for you and for you to see the work in real time, I'm assuming that you're going to invite them to a group. Is that what you had planned, or what kind of structure do you have in place to have them within your organization?
Yes, that's correct. That's what we've done for the Alpine, the Alpine maintenance of hydrants. You invite them to the group, and that's all they can see is that data that's within that group. So does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense to me. So for those of you that aren't very familiar with that structure, within ArcGIS Online, you can create groups that help to set the permissions as far as the feature services and the web maps, and the content that's stored within that group can be made available to people that are only part of that group. So you could be a member of multiple groups, or depending on what your need was, only one group. So the contractor would be invited to a specific group so that they could complete their work. Okay, I know I'm keeping you on the phone for a while. We're just gonna maybe do one more and then we'll let you guys go. I did get a question about what does LGIM stand for? So that stands for the Local Government Information Model. This is a data schema that Esri's published. It's been several years now, but it just provides some best practices for the data schema, and several of our solutions integrate with the local government information model to make it easier to kickstart the work that you're doing. It doesn't have to be used. A lot of our customers do use it, and a lot of our customers have configured it or added to it. So that's what it stands for. And then I have another question for you guys at Padre Dam. It's specific to your infrastructure, and I know Colleen and Yelena that we had talked about this a little bit as far as you're using ArcGIS Online and you have ArcGIS Server, but you're also in the process of implementing ArcGIS Enterprise. The questions that have come in, there's a couple of them, but they're asking specifically all this data that you have, and you have this sharing capability through ArcGIS Online and web maps. How are you managing that data? I know you talked to me about some of it's hosted and some of it's on your server, and then your future plans. Can you just discuss that a little bit?
Well, since this is the last question and Yelena hasn't been able to answer, I'm going to give this one to her as best we can. So here we go.
Sure, yeah. Well, we have adapted the local government information model. We've added some attributes. You can kind of customize it to your own needs. That is our system of record. That is our kind of holy grail of GIS information. Between our GIS staff, we do work in a version environment. So when we're editing things, we QA QC it, then publish it to the default. And from our local government information model, we publish the feature services to ArcGIS Online, expose them to be edited in the field through our staff or operations or contractors. And then we download it, QC it, and update our system of record, our Padre Dam local government information model. So hopefully that answers it. Can you add anything else?
Did that answer the question, Krista? Is that what you were going for?
I think it did answer partially. I was really hoping to hear about how you're managing your data, as far as some of it's on your ArcGIS server and some of it's hosted in ArcGIS Online. And you've got, it looks like a lot of different applications where people are interacting. So,
okay, well, I'll give a good example. So we actually do have a couple that's purely hosted, and in the sense of it doesn't matter if it gets messed up in that way. So like that AMI construction meter, the system of record of that is actually in the AMI database. So what she does is she has a report that she can run for the current construction meters, and then I designed an ArcMap project for her, and we actually worked on this several months to figure out like the best way to symbolize and show, because we have different types of construction meters out there and such. And then I taught her, and we did a little how-to, and she does an excellent job of maintaining that. So in that sense, you know, she's taking AMI data that, you know, is managed through the AMI system, but just then running a report to utilize specifically for construction meters. And for development services, that's where the process starts. So they, so when like one of the engineering techs always has that app up and running because, you know, since people in the water field know, you know, you can't have more than one construction meter on a hydrant. So this is cut down, like, you know, occasionally someone would accidentally assign 2 construction meters to a fire hydrant. So having that kind of dashboard view of where all the construction meters are out in the field has been helpful in that sense. So there's a couple things like that that's just hosted data, and because it's changing all the time, we don't really worry about it because, again, it's a copy. That's how I look at ArcGIS Online hosted stuff, is realize it's a copy of your data, and if it's something, if it's a purpose that maybe is just being updated and it's just information only, then you don't really need to worry about it. But if it's data that you plan to then update your system of record, you know, behind the firewall into your SQL database, then, you know, and we're trying to get more of our processes automated too in that sense. So, you know, like right now, we'll download it and then update our tables and feature classes that way. But, and, you know, we do have the web adapter in our DMZ. So, so having that capability to, and we're using a version database. So that way the data also doesn't get messed up. It first goes to the version. So is that better, Krista?
Yeah, thanks you guys. Sorry, I'm throwing all these hard questions at you. I really appreciate you doing this webinar with us today and sharing all your web applications and collector applications. And you're definitely taking advantage of this modern Web GIS and sharing your information in many ways. So thank you again, and thank all the attendees for joining us today. We hope to see you next month.